Welcome back to another episode of Unplug with Mel. In our last interview, we had the pleasure of hosting the witty and wise Melissa Hooper from the Energy People Group. She shared her compelling story that revolved around leadership, acknowledging the uncertainty of not always having the answers, and embracing who we are as a human being. Melissa reminds us that it's not about being the smartest person in the room, but being a quick learner. If you haven't had the chance to tune in, I encourage you to catch up soon. Our next guest is the outstanding amateur cowboy, self-proclaimed by himself, the one and only Sam McKay. Be sure to join us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. I can't wait for you to hear this captivating episode. We hope you enjoy. Hi, Sam. Welcome to Unplug with Mel. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Mel?
I am so glad to have you as a guest on this podcast to tell our audience how we met. I'm very new in my HR career. I got shifted off to SHRM Nationals from my boss, and I'm doing my first huge expo. And I'm on a mission to find a new payroll company. And so I'm tired. That expo is huge.
It's big, yeah.
And I'm an introvert and I'm drained. My battery's drained from learning and engaging and all this stuff. And so all of a sudden I come to Motivosity's booth, and you are just in your groove with your big burly feet. And for the audience to know this, he's wearing, is it your snow guys?
They're big Yeti feet slippers.
Yeti, that's the word.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that is good marketing. No lie. Good marketing. So we got to chat and get to learn what you did with your company and what could be used in the future anywhere else. And so I just loved it. And we followed each other on LinkedIn. So the past, 3 years, I've gotten to follow your journey and learn and to see your posts. And I was like, you know what? As I wrote down a list of people I wanted on this podcast, I was like, I want Sam McKay. There's a story here. I know there is. He is a dad of 5, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And married to a lovely woman. And you're out in Utah. And so what I do here in this podcast is, it's in the title, it's Unplug with Mel. We're very casual. And so what I want you to do here is just to relax and tell your story. And I don't give your bio. Sam McKay does. Sam gets to tell those that are listening in who you are, where you're from, how did you get into sales, and how it all makes sense in the trajectory of your life. So Sam, who are you?
I am Sam, right? That's always fun to say. And I'm stoked to be here, Mel. It's been fun to be connected with you over the last couple of years since SHRM. And it was SHRM, right? Wasn't it in New Orleans?
Yeah. It was SHRM National during coming through the COVID.
That seems like a week ago, and it seems like 10 years ago at the same time. That's crazy.
I feel you there. I feel you there.
Wow. I'm Sam. I'm out here in Utah. I work for Motivosity, and I think the two big things that you and I have touched on this before when I talk, but I love doing cowboy stuff. And my family, I was born in Oregon. We moved to Utah when I was, I think, 5 or 6. And when I was 6, I've got a huge family. I've got 6 younger brothers, and I've got an older sister and a younger sister. So like my family of 5, my parents probably look at that and say, "Oh, that's cute," but like we're done. When I was 6, I think one of the biggest shaping moments I had was I got hit by a car when I was riding my bike, and Sam versus car. Sam loses that fight 10 out of 10, and so I had a traumatic brain injury. It was pretty rough. It was touch and go for a little bit, and I couldn't, as a result of that, the side effects, I mean, aside from I've got headaches and I'll have headaches forever, but that's a pretty small cost as far as surviving something like that goes. Outside of that, I'm fine. I can talk. I bounced back quicker than I probably should have, but I could not play any contact sports. And my dad is a big spiritual cowboy, played football in college. So all my brothers except for me played football, and all my brothers except for me wrestled. And I probably wouldn't have wrestled anyway, but it was a challenge for me to find. It was really cool. I still got into the sport of football because I loved it, but I couldn't go strap on pads and get smacked in the head again. You couldn't roll the dice with that. And so finding my own way to navigate that was hard at first, especially as a kid when all my friends would have football practice and I would have not football practice. um, but as a result, like the group of friends that I developed, I kept those same friends, but I was able to meet people and maintain relationships and still, I mean, I still played basketball. I still play basketball a few times a week with a bunch of broken down old dads. But uh, that TBI shaped me in a way that took my life on a trajectory that it was hard when I was a kid, but has been awesome since. And I've been able to maintain. I'm not an athlete, right? I don't play pro sports. I aspire to mediocrity, but I've been able to maintain a lot of relationships I otherwise wouldn't have. But that was a pretty poignant spot for me. I ended up in sales kind of by accident. I'm really glad that a lot more people are more intentional about their sales career now. My dad's a cowboy. Well, he's a lawyer. He was a lawyer, but he's a cowboy. And he gave me some career advice and said when I was looking at what I could do to make the money I needed to support my cowboy hobby, I looked at law school or med school. And he said I didn't love science, so I went into law. And I didn't love science either. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go into law. And I started pre-law and I started doing these things and would go shadow people at my dad's offices and other offices. And I was like, Dad, this is miserable. Like I just hated it. And he said, yeah, I know. Just he joked like he loved the work that he did. He loved being an attorney. He was an attorney for 30 years before he retired. But um, I kind of stumbled into a third door in sales and got recruited to try it out 1 year and got hooked. And that sales I love it because sales has a very symbiotic relationship with my real passions in life. Sales not my passion. Sales isn't my calling. I still love sales,
Yeah.
but like my passion is not, hey, what do you live for? It's not tech sales. I love it, but I live to play basketball and go do cowboy stuff. So horses and sales, like horses, my real passion, and sales have a really symbiotic relationship that I've been really grateful for and been really blessed. And that's what jobs should be. And that doesn't make your job less important. Like that doesn't decrease the importance of your job. That heightens it because it allows you to pursue your passions. So I love sales because it's an enjoyable career, but also because it supports my wife and my kids and feeds my cowboy. We're going to call it a hobby. We're not going to call it an addiction because that's such an ugly word, but it feeds my cowboy hobby.
Yeah. No, my podcast is a hobby. Hopefully,
Sure. Yeah.
further, it's not a bad thing at all.
No, it's good.
So you have goals though in your cowboying to eventually just be doing that full time and be close to family and unplugging and relaxing, don't you? That's part
I
of your.
do. Yes. Long term, I would love to just go out to Montana and just
Mhm.
cowboy till I'm done. Allison said I have to get one other family member, her family or my family, it doesn't matter. We just need one other sibling to move out there with us because we'll be farther away. But long term, my goal is to go just cowboy full time and then throw my cell phone in a lake and put a landline in my house and have a good time. I won't throw my cell phone in the lake, but it's long term I'm in sales till I can go cowboy. And
So that's sustainable. Well, that's the
yeah,
thing is making sure we're mindful and not missing out on our one life that we get to live.
yeah,
And there's so many out there listening in that have a job that they love, they're good at, but it's not their passion. And
right.
that's okay.
I
It
think it's healthy. Like I don't
it's
think it's just okay. I think it's healthy. I think that's what it should be.
it should be. I mean, if your work is your love and passion and you're giving it all, you still need to make sure you have outlets otherwise that you're not
Oh
like
yes,
what's the ugly word I'm looking for? A workaholic.
that is an ugly word. That's a sad
Yeah.
word. Yeah,
That,
we don't want that.
that work-life blend. I don't believe in balance. I believe there's a blend. And if you don't have it, then you need to be seeking it and being intentional in it, whether it's taking up a hobby like basketball or, reading or unplugging. That's why I came up with Unplug with Mel.
I like it.
All work and no other is not it's not a legacy that I would want to leave behind for my kids and stuff like that. But that's why I set forth to hear other stories, because in that comparison that we do in life, they're looking at Sam and going, "Oh, Sam is just amazing at sales. He's got the life, the kids, the wife, the career. I want to be just like Sam." And then deep down, you're like, "I just can't wait till Montana."
Yeah.
People don't realize you're just working hard to get to where your goals, your growth plan is, your retirement plan is, and you can take on things that Sam is like, but your journey will be different,
And right now, Sam's living bedtime to bedtime with 5 kids anyway. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I can definitely see how it's bedtime to bedtime.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with that lifestyle as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for introducing yourself and giving us a little bit. In your life of sales, how did you get started? And where did it lead to now with Motivosity?
Yeah, I got started as I had a couple of years of school left, and I'd done a few different jobs. I'd done a few more blue collar jobs. I'd done construction. I'd worked in a warehouse cutting just cutting metal pipes down to size. I'd always did the horsework stuff, and then had done more normal jobs. I was a lifeguard at a water park, all of that, and none of that was going to pay for my school, and I didn't want to go into a ton of debt for my education. So I got recruited. It was really just dumb luck. I got recruited to go do door-to-door sales in Virginia, selling trash services back east and even down there in the South. The trash is privatized. So this is very exciting, very just riveting tale about trash. But you could have a cul-de-sac with 7 houses in it, and they could have 7 different pickup days, hypothetically. And so I would go door to door, and it's not like anyone was ever happy to see you, but it was, hey, you're paying this much. You pay this much on a bill you've never paid attention to in your life. And so I would call myself in Virginia. I lived in Louisiana for a while, and so I love the South. And I would call myself Sam the Garbage Man at every door, and people would chuckle, and they were really nice, and it was great. And I did really well. Like I got to the point where in a lot of ways, I'd be leaving the office with a lot of, I did well. I was getting around 17 people a day. 17 sales a day, and it was going really well. And I was like, okay, this is neat. And the owners of the company took me aside and said, hey, we're going to start a new branch up in Philly. We haven't opened yet. We don't even have the trucks here yet. We don't have the cans here. Like none of it's there yet, but we'll be in effect by the time these people are signing up for. We want you to go up there, want you to go door to door, and want you to basically just open this new branch. And so I was like, cool, great, no problem. Philly's an awesome city. I'm in. And the culture in Virginia and the culture in Philly are drastically different. Still both very cool, but I still remember the first door I knocked on in Philadelphia. The person answered the door, and they said, "What do you want?" And then they shut the door, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not in Virginia anymore." And so it was a bit of a struggle to adapt to a new group of people, and it cost me because you're working on accelerated retroactive compensation plans, and so you get to X number of sales, everything retro is worth X amount. And so I went from leading the office with like 17 sales a day to leading the office with like 2 or 4, and it puts your goals behind. And it took us a few weeks, but we got it down and we got back up to that number that we were at. And it was still a successful year. It was still really good. At the end of it all, they opened up the branch in Philly. It has a happy ending. And they took me aside as I was getting ready to fly home because I was getting ready to go to school out in Utah. And they said, hey, you finished the summer here. And it was a good summer. You finished it here. You would have finished it here. And the here number was higher, like a lot higher. And that would have been worth X amount of dollars for you. And I was like, yeah, I know, like life happens. It's a bummer, but we still did well. And they said, you fell on the sword for us. You didn't stop when things got really difficult in Philly, and we appreciate all the hard work you did. Taking just a pessimistic average, let's say that you would have only done this, which we're confident you would have stayed at least this if we would have just left you in Virginia, you would have made this much. So we owe you this much. We're going to pay you this much as if you hit this, because we know if we would have left you in Virginia instead of bringing you to Philly, you would have hit that. And that was a shock to me, and really rare, very rare in the sales world, because number one, like your contract's your contract. I still would have done fine that summer without it. But number two, leaders like that,
Yeah, I was just thinking
yeah,
leadership.
yeah, it was Dan and Adam, and they both just took care of me. And I remember thinking, like, that's amazing. And that's also, sales is a calculated gamble as a profession, and I'd made a calculated gamble and bet on Sam, and because of that summer, I paid for the last 2 years of schooling with
Wow.
books, with rent, with all of that. So
Well,
take
I
the 2
like
years
that
school with that.
story. Is door-to-door sales is not easy.
No, it's
We
brutal and
think
it's lonely.
we think 2023 we don't want to do it because of the demographic and how people are just not approachable. But back then, that's a way of life to make a profit, was to go door
Yeah,
to door and cell phones and stuff like that. But what your company did there is they saw that potential in Sam, saying, if we had kept him where he was, he would have met the market. We moved him. We asked him to go here.
yeah,
It was more of a struggle. He stayed at it. We're going to pay him what we know he's capable of, because we want him to stay in sales. We need a guy
yeah,
like, and look at
yeah.
you now. You're still in sales because of leadership.
That played a big role. Yeah. And in fact, I ran into Adam, one of my bosses at a Jazz game. I'm a big Utah Jazz fan. I ran into him a couple months ago with my wife, and it was just this awesome big reunion and catch up session, and texted him back and forth, just some old war stories from way back when. And it's really meaningful. Like, I look at the life that I have now that I love, and it started pretty on a whim. But I was like, yeah, I'm a single guy. Like, I'll go take a gamble selling for a summer. Why not?
We're so
And
different when we're single with no commitments.
right.
We'll try
Yeah.
it.
And this guy just took me under his wing and took care of me and invested in me, and set me on a track that I'm still on. So it's pretty cool.
The return of investment. I love it.
Right.
From there, where did you head off to?
Door to door. I finished school. I got married while I was still in school. I had a little bit left. Finished school and started right out of college. Went into a job where I was working for a company called Western Governors University for just a little bit, or a university there. I was helping people invest in education, and I was trying to break into tech, and got broken into. I got recruited by a company called Qualtrics, which is an amazing organization. I was there for 3 years, and then went to Jive Communications, and Jive is where I really scaled my career. I had a lot of people invest in me. I fell in love with, I moved from a mindset of wanting to chase larger logos to small to medium businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a few people there specifically that shaped my career forever, and my life, really. So one of those people was our marketing director at the time at Log Me In. Log Me In acquired Jive Communications, and his name's Logan Mallory. And I stood up a new team, and he reached out to me about a year into this new team I was standing up, and said, hey, I don't know if there's a fit, but you need to come at least talk to these people. And Logan was the VP of Motivosity, where I work now, and still is. He's the VP of marketing. And the relationship that we had with marketing as sales it was a lot rarer than it should be.
Mm-hmm.
It was really healthy. It was really collaborative. It was really, there was a really open door policy there, and we got a lot done. And so the chance to work with Logan again, I wasn't really looking to leave that team that I was on, because that team meant the world. It's one of my proudest accomplishments of my whole career, is that team. And I was really happy, and we'd kind of overcome all kinds of things to surpass goals that most people at the company didn't think we should even have in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But the chance to work with Logan again made it like I had to at least talk to him. And so I met with everybody here. I met with our VP of sales, and I met with the rest of the C-suite. And once I met with our CEO, Scott Johnson, the CEO of Motivosity, is probably the only human like him on earth. He's already built a company and sold it pretty darn successfully. He's bootstrapped and is funding Motivosity right now. And I was like, Scott, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Most people who do what you're doing, they go live on a sailboat for the rest of their lives. And he said, like, I give people equity in my company here. There's a market for what we're doing, a big market. And when we exit, a lot of people at Motivosity are going to make a lot of money, and they're going to use the things that they've learned here about how a company should run. They'll go start their own thing. When they do that, I want to be the first money in. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're just one of the best people ever. So that culture of making people happy at work, we use Motivosity at Motivosity, and I'm all in. I moved my chips to the middle of the table, and I'm here. So it's been a journey of I mean, Virginia and Philly was 2010.
Here you are 13 years later.
Yeah, here I am at Motivosity, and this is just the absolute highlight of my career. It's an amazing place to work, and what we do matters, and I'm having a blast. So
I love it. And I love how just speaking with you gets me motivated in that way, because that's what it's about. Living a good life, well-rounded in all aspects. We're going to switch a little gears, because that life that you have did not come without hardships and setbacks.
No.
And a fork in the road where you're like, OMG, what now? So, Sam, what is that one moment that really made you time out? I need a moment to breathe.
Yeah.
And where are we headed now? Because now looking back, it's probably a lesson. But at that moment, it was like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think I've had two. One is that traumatic brain injury, but that was 30 years ago, and like I was 6. So
For sure.
Like,
For sure.
I don't want to downplay it. That one was tough, but I was under the care of others. As an adult, we had 2 children, and I was an account executive. I was at Go2Connect, Jive Communication. It had just been acquired by LogMeIn. I was working for a great boss. I had a great VP, and we decided to have our 3rd kid. And Allison, I've missed one ultrasound, and it was this ultrasound. I go to all the baby stuff. I did. We're retired now, but when we were having kids, I went to all the baby stuff. And I just had a day where it was just back to back to back to back. Like I didn't have 10 minutes to breathe. And I told Allison, like, I'm not going to make the ultrasound. I'm really sorry. You're going to have to take both Vera and Porter to this ultrasound. I have to be on this call. And it was a call where I had to be there, but I wasn't going to be engaging. I just had to be, it was one of those weird calls. I had to be present, but I wasn't all the way present. So on this other screen over here, this is so dumb. We had 2 Camrys at the time. And I was watching a YouTube tutorial on how to fit 3 car seats in the back seat of a Camry, because this is the skill that I was just going to have to master. Yep. And so Allison calls me, and I couldn't answer right away. And she's like, you need to call me back. So I walked into a conference room, and the conference rooms are all glass doors. And I FaceTimed Allison. And I remember I saw our daughter Vera was waving an ultrasound around in the background, and just kind of having her time. Like, she was having a good time. Our baby boy Porter was 2-ish. And Allison was like really emotional. And I thought she was emotional because one of our kids could comprehend that we were having another kid. Like, that was the first time we had that. And she said, tell Dad, like, are the babies good? And Vera said, or is the baby good? And she said, yeah. And she said, tell Dad how many babies we're having. And I was like, and she said, we're having twins. And Allison, yeah.
That's a pause.
It was. I went into like happy shock. And I remember like the first thing I thought was like, that YouTube video was useless. Like, we're going to have to get rid of one of the, we got rid of one of the Camrys, and we got a minivan, and I love the minivan. It has so many cup holders. It's great. But that year where the twins were born was a real fork for me, because we doubled the size like doubled the number of kids we have, doubled the size of our family, kind of. Yeah. Anyway, our number of kids went up by
We're
200%.
outnumbered by kids now.
Oh, yeah. We went from 2 to 4. We were looking for a home to buy. And my salary going from 2 kids to 4 kids stayed the same. And one of the reasons I love sales as a profession is because you can bet on yourself. And I just said, okay, well, we're trying to buy a house. My salary's not moving up. I need to go have the year of my life. And so for a year, almost just under a year, I would drive an hour to work. I would work all day, 8, 9, 10 hours. And then I would go look at home listings for a couple hours after work because we were looking to move down closer to where I was working, drive an hour home, and then deal with the twins' hardships, and then try to be a present father and husband. And one of our boys was born with a cleft lip and palate, so he had to have, I think, 3 or 4 surgeries, and it was a lot. Like they were routine surgeries. It wasn't anything insane, but they're still surgeries on a newborn baby, and there's no easy way to do that. So, not sleeping a lot, not really taking care of myself physically. And I don't know if there was any way around it. Like I just kind of turned the knob all the way up, and for that year, that's what I did. An hour to work 9 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day, look for homes for 2 hours after work, drive home. And I didn't know I could do this because I was always really skin and bone growing up. I put on a ton of weight, got overweight, and physically and mentally,
You were struggling.
really unhealthy from a physical and mental standpoint. And the physical standpoint, I think to some degree was inevitable because I was just, caffeine round the clock, junk food I was on the road all the it was bad.
Yeah.
Physical health was going to take a toll. Mental health, I think, and my advice to people is mental health to some degree could have been avoided, because what I ended up doing was we needed to buy a home. I needed to make it, I'm our provider, I'm our income, and that's a healthy burden, I guess, but it's still a burden that you carry if you're providing for a family, no matter what it is. And if I did it again, I would set an income threshold where I said, once I get to here, I'll dial it back. I didn't do that. And so if a deal was going to pay me $30 in commissions, or if a deal was going to pay me $3,000 in commissions, I would prioritize both of those. I'd be like, I want it. Give me it. We need to make as much as we can, as fast as we can. And that was my whole focus. And that year is a huge blessing because I don't think I'll ever have to turn the knob up like that again. There's real power in saying I have to bet on me and go have the best year of my life when my salary I was being paid, it was okay, but not 4 kids. Like the only way we're going to be able to afford a lot of what we need is if I go make it happen with commissions. And there's power in saying I need to go do this and then doing it. And I did it that year, and it was a huge blessing. It was a big accomplishment. It was great. We bought a home. It worked out fine, but I did not take care of myself physically or mentally. The physical, I knew I was going to take a hit.
I don't think you were looking in the mirror at that time. You weren't taking
I tried not to. It got pretty sad. It was rough, but
and that
yes.
hunger and that vision. This has to be met by a certain point.
It was crazy. So if you ever get in that point where you got to turn the knob up, that's okay. I think there's a time and a season for that. Set a threshold. If I would have set a threshold of once we make this, I'm going to back off to X percent of input. I'm not going to take deals that are less than this outside. I don't know. Set some priorities there. I didn't set any priorities. And so I did have the year of my life, which is really great, to that point, and made the money we needed to buy a home, and we love the home we're in. We're in a great neighborhood, but mentally and physically, that was a rough it was weird because it was, in one sense, it was a really dark year. I was just struggling. And in another sense, it was a great year because we were still celebrating the birth of these 2 beautiful boys. And so that was a weird reconciliation that both those things could exist. I loved my boys. I was grateful they were here. Yeah.
In the real world and stuff, when we get very transactional with people's lives, we see what they're doing in their career, oh, they must be just on fire and doing things. And we're seeing the profits go up, or just a massive amount of good performance. And we're not seeing oh wow, Sam's changed a bit. He's put on a lot of weight. He looks
Y-
run down. Maybe we need to check in on him. Or
Yeah.
knowing that they went from 2 kids to 4 kids and two of them twins and I think your wife's name is Allison. Did I say that right?
Allison. Yep.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, look, memory go. Pat on the
Oh,
back.
you. Yeah.
And in her home helping and putting in all that effort at the house while you're gone, like they're just thinking you're on the go for it. But we get very transactional when someone's peaking in their career. We're forgetting that things can be very dark at home
Oh, yeah.
or in their personal life in that journey. It's not always well balanced. You might not be thriving in your career, but home life's great.
Yeah.
You're thriving in your career, but home life's not so swell. Those are
Yeah.
why in my industry with HR, it's called the check-in. We need to
Mhm.
make sure we're observing and using empathy and emotional intelligence and reading between the lines of going, Sam, come see me real quick.
Right.
I just want to check it.
Yeah.
Because that's when maybe before now know hindsight 2020 to set a threshold, maybe before it got that far, someone would have said, well, did you set a threshold? Have you met enough to get the house? Have you met enough to spend a couple more hours at home with the kids?
Yeah.
Those type of things. And we learn that as we get older and wiser and live through it. And that's why I asked that question about setbacks, because when we grow through those setbacks, we look, okay, I see why it was a setback and where it launched me to.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily regret the setbacks of my life because it changed who I am.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that.
And that's the key question there. It's because in the moment of a setback, 3 car seats won't fit in the Camry.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good. It was a good Camry too, Mel. It was
I'm
such a
going.
good Camry.
We planned 1 child. We're going
Yeah.
4 now.
Yeah.
And all of those questions, and we're sitting like in those front. Whoa, 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 whoa. Looking back, oh my God, I
Yeah.
got doubly blessed. Life worked out the way it needed to. I got stretched. I got taught lessons I wouldn't have gotten taught if I hadn't have gone through this setback.
Yeah.
And so that's why I make a pause in this podcast while we unplug is to, hey, what setbacks have you had? So in that, we're going to switch gears because I want to circle back to something you said in your trajectory of your career. That one job that you had with that good, solid team,
Mm-hmm.
and the victory that you're pretty proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Go through that. Like, I want people to take a moment and just acknowledge the good work that they've done. So in that team, in that period of time,
Sure.
what was all that about? Who is the boss? Like, because after that, you left that great team for a new job.
Yeah.
And why would you do that? Like, okay, everything was great. You met all your metrics, all this stuff. So why would someone take all of that hard work and move to another company? Explain to our listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was hard. So I was at this company for a couple of years, and my immediate boss, and the boss that I had when I had the twins, was amazing. His name's Jason Stewart. We still talk. I'm still in touch with Jason. Talk sports, family. He'll FaceTime my kids and dress up as Santa Claus every year, and just they
Love
get a
it.
FaceTime call from Santa. He's a good dude. And the VP at the time, his name's Abe Nell, and Abe is the one that, as a VP, just took me under his wing and kind of converted me to a small business mindset, converted me to a couple different ways of thinking, and then just invested in me and pushed me to bend, not break. And so after a couple years on Jason's team, I got moved into a management role. So I stood up a team, and then I stood up another team, and Abe called me at the end of a year and said, hey, listen, I just got out of a meeting. We want to target these solutions to small to medium businesses. None of them think there's a market for it. I think they're wrong. You're going to stand up a new team, like a brand new team, target a brand new market, and you're going to prove me right. And if this goes well, then we look awesome. And if this doesn't go well, he kind of half jokingly was like, we're looking for other jobs. Like, sorry. And so it was this big, do it or don't do it moment. And I love Abe, and I would go to war for Abe 7 days a week. He's just one of the best high character sales leaders on earth. And so I said, I'm in. And COVID had hit. And so I stood up a team of, it was 12 reps that I knew a couple of them by association in this job, but I'd never managed any of them. 12 brand new reps, brand new product, and we're an island. It was like, hey, you 12 reps report to Sam. You're going to sell these solutions to small to medium business. See ya. And that was kind of how it happened. And there wasn't like, that makes it sound like we were abandoned. It was just the way they had to approach it, because there was so much going on with other things that were going well. This was kind of an experiment to see what would happen. And so we figured out how to sell it, how to quote it, how to, like, conversations, what worked, demoing, like all these things. And it was really hard. It was, 12 reps is probably too many, but we had a team of 12. And for that first fiscal quarter, I cried at least once a week, just was buckling under the stress of trying to figure out how I was going to be able to provide for, like, I got 12 people, I got 12 mouths to feed, times that by how many are married, have kids, whatever. And how are we going to figure out how to do this? And Abe's invested in me, and how do I take care of my family? Because ultimately, like, I need to get paid for this, this, and this. And it was really stressful. It was really hard. That first quarter was just like the refiner's fire for 3 straight months.
Oh, I love that word, refiner's fire.
Oh, it was awesome. And the team, it was crazy, because in a completely remote environment, we got really close, basically just screwing things up and then figuring out what worked. And 3 months of that, and we came out the other side just like this lean operational machine. We ended up doing just south of 300% of what they had projected their best case for us to be that year. Like, hey, best case scenarios here. And we like tripled that. And so when Logan Mallory at Motivosity reached out to me, we were in smooth sailing mode. Like, this airplane, we had built it from the ground up. We were fixing it as we were flying it. And this team of 12 relatively young in their career reps and me, it just worked. We figured it out and we won. And the environment and just, I don't know, the obstacles that we had to deal with, and just by the nature of the beast, like, we were kind of, all we had was us. And not letting Abe down, which matters to me a ton. Not letting Abe down, and then being able to take care of the team. Like, I don't just have my kids to feed. I've got this person and their spouse and their kids to feed.
You took it out of transactional and you put it in this people, my family.
Yes, you've got people, and we got really close, and I still talk to those people. It's fun because now it was not an easy decision to decide to leave, but once I talked to Scott and once I saw the vision and the mission of Motivosity, I wanted to be just a part of it and standing up their small to medium business team. And in a lot of ways was starting over what I'd just barely done at this other company at LastPass. And
well, that's a testament to your leadership there, is that you knew you were leaving the team in good hands to go take on another challenge and set Scott and their team up for the same success.
It was really, it was exciting. You're very kind to say that's a testament to my leadership. I hope they do okay. I hope they do. Like, I was hoping they'd do well. I knew they'd take care of my people. The really fun thing about that is, the day I left, my last day at LastPass, I was excited to come to Motivosity. I cried so hard because we'd just gone through everything as a team, and I still have those people I've still actually never physically met. I just talked to them on the phone.
Oh wow!
Like, because they lived in Boston or Arizona or all over. Wow. And so
that is a testament to your leadership.
It was hard.
You agree with me or not, Sam?
That's very nice. I'm really grateful for them and for that experience, and it was awesome. I'm really proud of that team. That's one of the biggest accomplishments that I will never shut up about that group of 12. And it was hard to leave because I was excited about Motivosity, but I was leaving them. What's been cool is I still have been able to be a reference and like a mentor, hopefully a mentor, but like I've been able to help these other reps as they take their next career steps, either internally still at that company or looking at other things. Like, I can be a reference for them. I've jumped on several reference calls. I've talked them through, like, I've role played job interviews with a couple of them. And it's the nice thing that I love about that is your people don't stop being your people just because you don't work with them anymore. Like they're your people forever.
I was going to ask, what advice would you tell someone listening in if they were
That's it.
feeling that urge?
That's it. Your people, do not stop being your people just because you don't work with them anymore.
Hit it, because that's key. Is you can be at a level in your current position and hitting every benchmark or whatever. But if you have an opportunity and you feel excited to take on the next challenge for yourself and for your family, for your bubble, to go ahead, because the people that you've been working with all along will still be along for your ride. They'll call you, they'll connect. It's called networking. Your network is your net worth.
It's very nice to, and it's cool to see that play out over and over and over. So that's been a big blessing. And then being at Motivosity, helping people be happy at work has been the best.
I bet you're I could just imagine being a fly on the wall at Motivosity. In that, as giving yourself in your team of 12, shout out to you guys if you're listening in. Moving into your mentors, you've made a lot of names in this podcast, which I love. I love how you're still in your previous bosses or leaderships bubbles around. I mean, like you're still friends. You're basketball, whatever. You're still there with them. So shout out to you.
My immediate boss, for those 2 years I was a rep, Jason Stewart, has been, he'll be a lifelong friend of mine. And then Abe Nell is that VP. Jason mentored me and pushed me pretty hard as his rep. And then I started running my own teams. And once I was running my own teams, Abe, the way I measure a lot of what I've been able to do in my life is just big life events. And when I started working under Abe Nell, because I was under that Abe Nell umbrella for 4 years, we were living in an apartment, which is a nice apartment. We had everything we needed. We had one car, and we had a little bit of debt. And by the time I left this remote security company, we had 2 cars, we had a home that we owned, and our only debt was our mortgage. And that's a lot to have happen in a 4-year period. And so Abe Nell, whatever Abe Nell would need me to do ever, I'd be there for it. And he's been a big part of, like, I talked to him 3 days ago, I think. He was traveling all over the place. And actually the reason I started being open to opportunities, period, was he went on to his next opportunity. And I said, well, if Abe's not here as my VP, then I'm not actively looking. But yeah, I'm open to conversations because who I follow into battle matters. And if Abe's not here, then I'll talk to somebody. And Abe was traveling back and forth to India and carved 20 minutes out to look over my entire offer letter here at Motivosity. I didn't work for him anymore. He was running his own thing. He was insanely busy, and he was a CRO at this place now. Abe's a CRO now. He's not an SVP of sales anymore, but he took time out of his day to go, busy day. It was probably very late at night.
The people in your corner.
Read through everything. Yeah. Abe's the other big one. And then honestly, I mean, my parents, my dad shaped me in a lot of ways. And I have a great relationship with both of them. My mom is an angel walking among regular humans. My dad kept me grounded and would give me structure that I just needed. And every tough conversation or every crazy, like, anything in my life, I would always choose to have it with my dad because he gave me so much structure. My mom is the one that do you know what VidAngel is? Like the company VidAngel? They're an awesome company. But they let you basically pick and choose the content that you want to watch. And so if there's things that you don't personally want to see in a movie, you can like remove it if you find them inappropriate, or you can just watch the movie anyway. My mom views, I don't know if that's the best way to view it. My mom views everyone and everything the best possible way that person or thing could be. And so knowing how my mom views me and knowing what my mom believes I'm capable of, shout out to Jennifer McKay. Like,
I love it. Hi, Mom.
Yeah,
I love it.
I try to be the person my mom thinks I am, and I'll be okay.
Yeah, and then your beautiful bride.
My wife, honestly, I've talked to yeah, poor Allison.
I
My
could not
I,
be. I mean, I'm a mom of six, so I get it.
yeah,
But you know,
Jennifer and Allison's joint efforts at raising me will be the only shot that I've got at heaven. Allison's like efforts in just the way she handles our family routine. She's the source of all things fun. She plans all our family trips. She like if you looked at what we handled, I clean bathrooms. I clean the bathrooms. That's my thing. Don't touch the bathrooms. They're mine. I have a system and it's sacred to me. Um, I pay for stuff because like our income comes from my job. That's it. Oh,
it's
she doesn't like putting gas in the car. I put gas in the car and I do the dishes. But Allison handles our finances. Like she's got stuff down there. She knows what she wants to do there, and we'll talk and do all that. But Allison, I could live this life a million times and not be as lucky in the woman that I found and married as I am with this one. So I'm a
I
pretty blessed guy. I got a lot of good things going
love
for me.
it. But it's important, as I said earlier, our network is our net worth. Who we connect with is for a season and a reason, and they're in it. When you grab a hold of one that makes sense in all aspects of your life, that you can just call up after a year or two, or just for a purpose. You know, they're ones to keep in your back pocket forever. Well, our time is here, and so we're gonna ask there's no way of having a podcast named Unplug with Mel without asking, and I kind of already know the answer from your bio. What does Sam do to unplug? And I'm pretty sure it has to do with a little bit of cowboying.
It does. Yeah, I'll play basketball a couple times a week with a bunch of broken down old dads, which is fun. And I'll try to exercise. We've got a gym in our garage, but my unplug, my go-to is horses and going and being a cowboy in the mountains. And I love doing it because it's some of the only times I can get together with all my brothers and my dad. We'll carve out at least one big pack trip a year where we just disappear in the mountains. So having that quality time, it gets harder and harder to do because a bunch of us are married, a bunch of us have kids. Like it's tricky to align those schedules. Like we've moved all over the country. But I love being in the mountains because it's just refreshing. The air is beautiful. It's just you're out there and it's good for your soul. And you don't have service in the mountains. It's really hard for me to unplug somewhere that I have phone service. I still work on that. I'm consciously working on being better at that. But you have no choice to unplug and just have the time of your life if you don't have service. So knowing that it's not that I don't trust my team here at work to take care of everything I need them to while I'm gone. I have a great support system here and I work with the best people in the world at Motivosity. But when your phone can't reach anyone anyway, you have no choice but to just have fun and be a cowboy. So it's a lot of fun.
Leave it behind at that point. I get it. Well, my last question is a way to sign off, and it's to encourage those that are listening, whether it's a quote that you've heard or a quote that you've created yourself, to inspire those that may be in a season or maybe a little lost, or maybe they got a phone call today that rocked their world. What would you say to them that are listening?
Yeah, it's a quote. I actually keep it in my scriptures. It's a quote that my mom showed me, and she printed it off for me. I was a missionary for a couple of years for our church, geez, a lifetime ago, and she printed it off for me, and I've kept it with me everywhere I've gone. It's by John Ruskin, and it says, "The greatest reward for a person's toil is not what they get by it or what they get from it, but what they become by it." And I love that quote because I'm in sales without being crass. I'm in sales to get paid. Everyone does their job to some degree to get paid. Your job is a means to an end to provide for your family or pursue your passions or whatever it is. But the biggest reward that I look back on is who I've become and the growth that I've experienced in each role. And I've been insanely fortunate to work for some amazing people. But the growth that I've had in every job that I've been in and in every point of, in every pair of twins that I've been able to be a parent to, and in every child that's been born and every new thing that we're learning and skill that stretches you, like the biggest reward from my career in sales is not ultimately money. It's just not. It's who I've become
Out
by
of it.
yeah,
Yep.
and like
Wow.
it and all the great things that you got as a kid growing up with your parents or whatever, like who I've become from each part of my life and the experiences I've had, that's been the biggest reward. And it doesn't mean that money doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that stress isn't real, but the growth that you experience as a person through that refiner's fire, that's your biggest reward. And I still will get horse blinders on and struggle to see it, but it's there. John Ruskin, go John Ruskin.
Go John Ruskin. Can they, those listening, reach out to you via LinkedIn?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm on there. I'm the tired looking dad that has Motivosity in the background on LinkedIn. So
I'm the tired looking mom on mine. Yeah, feel free to reach out to either I or Sam on that. And if you do reach out to Sam, let him know you heard him on Unplug with Mel. Thank you, Sam, for your time. I appreciate it. I hope you have the rest of your day. Thank you for hanging out with Mel.
Thanks for letting me come on here, Mel. Cheering for you always.
Thank you very much.